Hi, I'm Dan Looker, business editor with Successful Farming Magazine, and with me today is Steve Johnson, farm management specialist with Iowa State University. We're going to be talking about some key issues with crop insurance this year. There are some big changes coming that if you haven't already, you need to make some decisions about before March 15th. Steve, can you summarize the two big changes that crop insurance offers this year?
Sure. The number one change is a re-rating of products. So for any of those spring planted crops, especially corn and soybeans, the premiums are going to be less in 2012 than they were in 2011. On average, probably a 9 to 13% lower premium. So again, the insured's going to save money based on what they would have used as a product and level of coverage last year. But the biggest change is a new endorsement. It's called a trend adjusted APH yield endorsement. I call it the TA yield option, and I think there's going to be a lot of farmers interested in using that TA yield option.
Can you explain a little bit how that works? As I understand it, in states like Iowa and Illinois, the change is on a county-by-county basis, and basically the USDA is allowing farmers to increase their yield to bump it up maybe 2.5 bushels typically in states like Iowa. And then that carries back, right? Can you explain a little bit about how that works?
Sure. Let's take a look at an Iowa example. In Iowa, the trend adjusted is by county. In general, in Iowa, roughly 2 to 2.5 bushel per acre increase in your actual APH.
This is for corn.
This is for corn.
Out, right?
All right. For soybeans, that number is going to be less, probably somewhere in the range of a 0.2 to 0.4 bushel per acre per year. So the per year means you get to go back in to your APH database, and that database is the last 10 years that you planted the crop on that farm. So if you're in a corn rotation, you're going to go back the past 10 years. And for each of those years, multiply times that county factor. If you're in a corn-soybean rotation, you're going to go back even further, perhaps 20 years, because you've been planting corn, soybeans. So especially those that have done a good job of keeping their actual APH and providing that information, hopefully by farm, to their crop insurance representative, they're going to get a significant impact. In Iowa, I tend to see about a 15 to 20 bushel an acre increase over the actual APH by taking the TA yield option.
That sounds like a pretty good deal, Steve. I think there's been some confusion about whether this means your premiums are going up or not. Basically, if you choose this higher level of coverage, you're going to pay more, but the premium actually goes down if you stick with the same number of bushels, right?
Sure.
Can you talk a little bit about the economics?
There are three interacting factors, and this is going to be a little challenging, and I want to encourage those viewing this video to contact their crop insurance representative and get ahead of this. You don't have to wait until March 1st when you know your projected price. You've got a re-rating of products. So again, the premiums were going down already by roughly 9 to 12%. If you look at the TA yield option, you pick up more bushels, so you're guaranteeing more bushels. So yes, the premium will be higher using the TA yield option as opposed to using the actual APH. But the other interacting factor is the subsidy. As farmers move to higher levels of subsidy from 75 to 80%.
To a higher coverage level.
To a higher coverage level, there's a smaller subsidy. And the fourth interacting factor is what we call the unit structure, an optional unit versus an enterprise unit. So again, I think that producer needs to be knowledgeable and well in advance of March 15th. But in general, yes, I think you're going to see a lot of interest in using the TA yield option. But with the TA yield option, perhaps going to a lower level of coverage where you actually have a lower premium to ensure more revenue.
Right. So if you choose not to take all of those bushels that you could actually have insure the same number of bushels as the year before, but actually be paying a little bit less.
Correct, because of the re-rating of products as well as the TA yield option.
Well, that sounds like a really good deal, Steve. Maybe we should talk a little bit about some of the ways you can use these options that you have. There are quite a few things that people can do. Maybe we should talk a little bit about what you can do after March 15th too.
Okay.
But,
Well, before March 15th, a producer needs to make a decision of what product, what level of coverage, and then whether you're going to use this TA yield option. It is an endorsement, so you have to notify your crop insurance agent before that date. But you only have to make the multi-peril decision by March 15th, spring planted crops. You can still add hail, or you could add wind, or perhaps a green snap endorsement. But I see 4 different crop insurance strategies that producers might consider in the Corn Belt for corn and soybeans in 2012. Number 1, I think you use the TA yield option to increase the revenue guarantee. So the cheapest way to increase your revenue guarantee is taking that TA yield option, getting more bushels that you're covering. And again, I think there's going to be a lot of interest in that particular strategy. Number 2, I think a producer needs to compare the savings that they're getting from enterprise units. Again, enterprise units are heavily subsidized, and this is the 4th year of that subsidy. But when you have enterprise units, you're covering all cornfields in the county. You're not creating separate coverage by section. That's called optional units. So understand the difference between enterprise and optional units. But I think in both cases, I'm going to encourage producers to take the TA yield option.
Mm-hmm. And with the enterprise unit, basically your odds of having certain types of weather events go down. Your odds of collecting go
Correct.
down. And so that's one reason why you should consider some of the optional coverage, right?
Sure, yeah. And so again, high risk, high reward, you're rewarded because the premiums will be lower in the enterprise unit coverage. Optional units, especially if you've got variable ground, you've got ground that's in river bottoms or additional ground that's in upland. And so understand that risk that comes with enterprise units, but you do save money. Number 3, I think you need to consider the appropriate level. What we're seeing is something that we've not seen in recent years, is that I can actually move to a lower level of coverage, take the TA yield option, create a larger revenue guarantee, and have a lower premium. And that is that interaction with all 3, the re-rating of products, the more bushels with the TA yield option, and the higher percent subsidy at that lower level. And then number 4, as you mentioned, you might consider adding hail or perhaps a wind or green snap endorsement. That decision does not have to be made by March 15th. You can make that likely one day before the storm hits. But I would encourage producers to go ahead and probably make that decision for additional endorsements. Again, those products vary by company. They're not subsidized. And a lot of farmers, especially in Iowa, will take hail in additional coverage because that hail and wind provides coverage at the section line again. So it covers that issue when you have a hailstorm or a windstorm on individual farms, perils that hit some farms and not others. And that's especially true when we are electing enterprise units, because enterprise units, again, combine all cornfields together in the county for coverage. Or if you're considering committing most of your insurance bushels, those bushels are your APH, whether it be actual APH or TA yield option APH, times the level of coverage. If you're committing large number of insurance bushels, I would encourage producers to consider adding hail and perhaps a wind or green snap endorsement.
Those all sound like great suggestions, Steve, and I think this is a good reminder for everyone to be getting together with their crop insurance agents as soon as possible, right?
Yeah, I think March 15th is coming. I call it March Madness.
Right.
And that crop insurance agent probably won't know their premiums until March 2nd or March 5th. So get an appointment, but ask the tough questions, not only about the revenue guarantee and the premiums, how might I benefit from the re-rating of products, the TA yield option, and should I stay at that level of coverage in 2012?
Sounds great, Steve. Well, thanks for all this good advice, and it's good to have something exciting to talk about with crop insurance this year.
Great, thanks.